First of all, thank you. Welcome to Bowl Expo. You have made a great decision this afternoon. I don't know if all of you are aware or not, but right here we are very blessed and fortunate to be in the backyard of an incredible university and one of the top hospitality management school programs in the world. So when we looked to go extreme with our theme for Bowl Expo this year, it only made sense that we would try to reach out to the team at the University of Central Florida and specifically the hospitality program, and how could we partner with them to try to bring something different to all of you. And the team there was more than gracious to allow some of their faculty and staff to be a part of this. We had several planning meetings and just really excited to be with you today to bring that. So in the spirit of our extreme sessions, we've got a super session for you today. This is a long session, but we're going to break it up. We've got a young lady that I'm going to introduce here in just a second that's going to take us through the first part. We will stop just as all our other sessions that are going on. We'll take a 15-minute break, and then you're going to want to come right back because we have another young lady that's going to join us to take us through the second part of this super session. And you'll learn more about the young lady that's going to be with you this afternoon when we will properly introduce her after our break here. So it is my pleasure to tell you a little bit about a young lady that I had a chance to meet with, and we visited Splitsville here in the Disney property and met and talked and explored this session a little bit. So we're fortunate today to have with us Dr. Cynthia Mejia. She holds a Ph.D. in Hospitality Administration from Texas Tech University. She has a master's degree from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and a Bachelor of Science degree in Biochemistry from California Polytech State Institute, San Luis Obispo, California. Yeah. Are you yay for me saying that, or she's there? In addition to this academic training, Dr. Mejia is a graduate of the Culinary Institute of America, Hyde Park, New York. Cynthia has over 25 years' experience in the hospitality industry, working as an executive chef, director of F&B, general manager, assistant hotel GM in 4- and 5-star properties. Working primarily in the United States, in California, New York, and West Virginia, Cynthia also has international experience opening the BLU Restaurant and Jazz Club in Shangri-La Hotel in Singapore in 1999. She has published several articles and conference proceedings on the topics of technology acceptance, hospitality education, human resources, hospitality issues in China, facilities management, and social network analysis. She is relatively new to the great state of Florida, having lived here for only 1 year as part of the faculty. Cynthia teaches culinary operations, culture and cuisine, facilities management, and purchasing at UCF Rosen College of Hospitality Management, which you could throw a stone and hit. We're so close to. She lives with her husband and her 8-year-old daughter here in Orlando. Please join and give me a warm Bowl Expo welcome to Dr.
All right, can you hear me? I was warned there might be a little feedback, so we will... That's a lot of feedback. Might have to correct that. Let's see. Hello? Testing. Can you hear me like this? I'm a loud talker. You can hear me now? Okay. All right, great. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you for joining me here this afternoon and making this choice. I hope that you'll find what I'm going to talk about helpful and useful. Let me get started. All right, so this is what I have on the agenda. What I plan to do is speak for about an hour or so, and then we have some show and tell right here that you can come up and look at afterwards. So that's kind of how I'd like to get this started. So what I'm going to do today is I'll give a brief introduction of kind of how I got here, how I made this presentation. We'll talk a little bit about how we might roll out a catering program. I have 2 sample menus that I've prepared. I've prepared kind of a high-end, which I'm going to call an elegant type of catering menu, and then I prepared something called a casual menu, and that's on the economic side. So I have menus that I've prepared to show you that I've costed out, and then I also have the tabletop that I've also costed out. So we'll go through that. I'll show you just a very simple return on investment with some really conservative numbers to see how long it would take, how many parties it would take before you would see a return on investment in this tabletop, and then of course the show and tell. So let's see. I have a little confession to make. I'm not a bowler. I'm not a bowler. I'll tell you a little story about this. When I was about 8 years old, I was in the Girl Scouts, and we had a bowling field trip. And I went bowling. I came home, and my father said, "Hey, how did you do?" And I said, "I think I did okay." And he said, "Well, what did you get?" And I said, "Well, I think I did all right." And he said, "Did you get triple digits?" And I said, no, I didn't do quite that well. And this was many, many years ago, before they had those bumpers, so it's lots of gutter balls, of course. And he said, "Well, did you get an 80 or a 50? And I said, no, I didn't." He said, did you make double digits? And I said, "Well, I got an 8. Okay, that was the first time I ever went bowling. I got an 8. Right, so I enjoy bowling. I enjoy going out to the centers, and I have fun. I'm actually a really great bowler after 3 beers. I'm an excellent bowler, but it goes down really bad after that. So why am I here? Well, I'm here because I'm here to talk a little bit about catering through my daughter. And this is when she was 3 years old. And this is a party in our garage, all right, up in our garage. And this is, I was a chef for many years, so I thought, I can do this catering thing. I can make parties for my little girl and have people come over and such. And that was fine. But then, she turned 6, 7, 8. And I got on the soccer mom circuit. And what happened is on that circuit, all the other moms would have parties in different places, which included centers and bowling centers and entertainment centers. And so there would be 30 children in a class, so I would go to almost 15, 20 parties a year, right, in these different centers. And this happens to be at the main event in Lubbock, Texas, where I had this party for my daughter. So I chose no longer to cook the food, clean my house, decorate my garage, and you saw how successful that was. I decorate my garage, and I decided that this was a really nice way to entertain people, right? Children and other different, types of parties. I also worked for Texas Tech University. We had several parties at the main event there also. So my message here is I'm not your typical person that you might want to attract, or you'd think to even attract for catering and banquets. So this is kind of a message that there's a lot of us out there who do this soccer mom circuit who are looking for places to have quinceañeras or birthday parties or fraternity parties or different things like that. So as I go through that, that's kind of the focus that I have. That's kind of the perspective that I have. All right, so I know that we have 2 audiences here today, and they're from large and small centers, and I've been talking to a few people here. I've talked to some who are very well invested in catering and banquets already and have quite successful operations, even with off-site catering. But I know there's also folks in here who are considering taking this leap, because it is quite a leap to do this type of investment. So this talk is really to kind of cover all of you. All right, so why would we implement or improve an F&B program? So customers don't have a lot of time now, right? They're working. They don't have a lot of time to prepare, to plan. They maybe don't want to host this in their homes. Maybe there's a really large party, 50 people. It's not easy to do that in your home. So we need to capitalize on this kind of convenience. And the thought is that if you're going to have a group of people come to your center for like a team building or something like that, and you're not, supplying some kind of food and beverage for them in an organized way up front, you're going to lose that money, right? You're going to lose that. They're going to go somewhere else. They're going to eat at a fast food or a restaurant, or maybe eat at home before they come over, right? So this is an argument to have this be included and have this kind of a program up front, right? So when I envision this, giving this talk today, I was asked to speak about catering, menu organization, menu engineering, and a little bit about the tabletop investment. That's what I was asked to speak about today. But I would be neglectful if I didn't incorporate this in a wider perspective. Because, you know, a lot of people think that you can just open a restaurant or start serving food and beverage. A lot of people think that. And the truth of the matter is that it's not that easy. Even if you do everything right and perfect, it's a difficult thing to get into. Right? So what I also wanted to share with you is this idea that I have here, and this is coming from best practices. This is what we teach our students at the university, is how this banquets and catering program is related to best practices. So, for example, at the very top, you know, we need to know what our market position is. Who are we serving? Right? Are we near a university where we can serve a large body of students? Are we in a smaller rural area? Are we in a very ethnic area? Are we around tourists? Lots of tourists? I mean, what is our market? We need to understand our market positioning. Who are we? Who are we? And what is our message? All right, so I'll start off with that. Then I'll go into some of this, the menus, the demonstrated menus that I have, look at the tabletop investment. I'll talk a little bit about marketing down here, some training, brief training here. I'll go into testing and rollout, a little bit on customer follow-up and feedback, and more training. And then this is just a complete cycle. This never ends. And all of you here are in business, and I'm sure you're well aware that training and customer feedback, this is a never-ending cycle, right? So it's true also for this aspect in food and beverage. All right, so let's look at demographic and market position. Who are you serving? So this is going to dictate your menus and your price points, right? Are you going to be serving on the higher end? You all know your market. Are you going to be serving on the higher end? Maybe you want to capture a higher end. Are you interested in serving kind of an economic base? You know, you need to really know who those people are when you're looking at your demographics. Are you looking to bring in soccer moms, right? Do you want to go the kid route? Is that a viable thing for your center? Are you in an area where there's a lot of corporate business, right? There's some areas around the country that, you know, have small businesses, corporate centers that you could get in on that type of business. Are you in an area for tourists, lots of tourists? I don't know if you've been to Splitsville. I recently visited there, and that place is amazing. I never knew that you could have sushi and look at a bowling alley at the same time. I didn't know that was possible, right? So, and it was amazing. And even though I don't really bowl, I would go back there to eat the sushi. It was great. And I saw when I sat there and watched, and they didn't know who I was or why I was there. We were kind of there in secret, right? And I was sitting there and watching all the different tourists and how they really brought those people in. They had people out in front, and they were bringing them in. All those tourists walking by. So, are you in an area that's similar to that? Like I mentioned before, are you near a university or a college or lots of, you know, students, high schools even? And then this last one, quinceañera and various ethnic groups. Does anyone know what a quinceañera is? What's a quinceañera? Oh, from Texas. You know what quinceañera is.
Yeah, 15th birthday.
A 15th birthday for a young lady, right? For a young lady. My husband is Mexican. And we have several quinceañeras in our family. This is a 15th birthday. And this was out in Kaufman, Texas. I don't know if any of you know where Kaufman, Texas is, outside of Dallas. And we were going to have her quinceañera. She was looking forward to it, and it was going to be outside. It was going to be one of those out on the lawn kind of things. And what happened is we knew there was going to be a lot of rain coming. And so we were scrambling around looking for a place to have her quinceañera, right? It might just be a hall, or it could have been a banquet room or something. We were looking desperately for a place. We ended up having it in a barn, right? So there's a lot of opportunities out there. There's a lot of, you know, ethnic groups that you might not think of before where you can bring in some of this business, open up that market. Is there a male holiday?
female holiday?
It is. It's a female for young girls, quinceañera, right? Right. Yes.
Yeah, my marketing plan is gone.
Right. All right. So, all right, what I've done here, and I've made some estimates based on some costing with Cisco. And this is, I'm going to show you the elegant party first. And both of these parties, I'm going to show you an elegant costing, and I'm going to show you an economic costing. And they're both for groups of 50. Right? And this would be an example of a menu that you could break in on at your center if you were interested in developing something like this. Right? So, first of all, what I have, I want to show you over here my reasoning. I have some conservative assumptions. Typically in food and beverage, when you have low-cost items, it's a volumes game, right? So your margins aren't going to be as good as they could be if it wasn't that volume game, right? So I estimated 30% food costs, right? I estimated 25% labor and 15% overhead. And originally, I had about 28% overhead on that. But then I got to thinking, well, the food and beverage is already in your place. You're already paying for water, air conditioning, and all that stuff, insurance, right? So however you adjust that in your own accounting. So I lowered that overhead down. That still might be a little high. And then what's left is profit. And that, that's an estimate right there, I'd have to say. That's an estimate. But that's how I broke this out conservatively, just to demonstrate this and how you might be able to do this. Right, so I looked at tri-tip roast on the costing here. I'm originally from California. We serve a lot of tri-tip out there, and this is a really nice roast. It's there's obviously many other alternatives. You could serve pork, you could serve a turkey, whatever. But this is a good price point, about $6 a pound. I have a salad and some dressing, some vegetable, mashed potatoes and gravy, a roll, also this cheese tray, bar cookie, and a beverage, right? And so I have this costing on an elegant party, $7.40 per person times 50. And then the actual price of this to the consumer would be about $1,200, which would be roughly about $25 a person. Now, what I did do in researching this is I looked around the internet at all of the different current places that are doing catering, the centers that are doing catering, and I looked at their menus to see if this price was in line, like who would really pay $25 to do this. And interestingly, the range was between about $22 to $30 per person for in-house catering in a center. And then if you look at just their menus, some of their menu items, like I looked at a steak, was $18 or $19.99. Well, you add on top of their salad and a dessert and a drink and the service, so this is about in line. Of course, in your center, you might charge more or less. That's depending, right? All right, so the profit then for this number would be roughly $370 in this scenario. So that's the elegant party. And when we go to look at the tabletop, that's going to be kind of all of this material over here on this side. All right. So let's look at a casual party. This is a good way to break in. If maybe you're not sure, that this is something you want to do. If you don't want to make a real big investment, if you want to just test it, it's a lot less of an investment. But this is the menu that I put together to show a casual party. All right, so I'm basing this on a teenagers or a kids party or something like that. More casual. So we have, your chicken strips and chicken wings. I'm figuring about a half a pound per person. Pizza, these are pre-made pizzas. If you make them yourself, if you're already doing this yourself, you're going to, obviously be able to charge a little bit more and your costs will be less on that. Bar cookie, a silverware wrap, and a beverage. Now I included the silverware wrap in this one because I'm assuming that we're not going to have a higher investment on the silver on the tabletop. So this here, the silverware wrap, and when you get a chance to come and see this, this is really, really nice stuff. This right here is about 69 cents each. It's a napkin with a nice tie to it, and the silverware is actually colored silver, right? And the first time I ever saw this stuff, I was washing it by hand and drying it for people and putting it in their drawer, and they said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, this is your silverware." And I realized, oh my gosh, it's plastic. You can't believe that if you've never seen this yet, so I encourage you to come on up here afterwards. So that's I included that in because you're going to be throwing it away. They need to pay for it, right? The people need to pay for it. Right, and again, I have those conservative assumptions over there. So we're looking at a cost of, $4 a person or so, times 50 gives you 200. We're using a 30% food cost. It's around 700, 690, 700, and your profit's going to be less, obviously, at about $200. Right, so that's the casual party. And I'll come back to how those two relate with the return of investment. Right? So here's the tabletop part for the elegant party. The elegant party. So we have some chafing dishes. We have the rectangular chafing dish. We have a round chafing dish. We have a carving station, beverage dispenser. Here's the coffee urn. I didn't put that on there. There is not here, but there is a couple of bowls, some platters. We have the dinner forks, knives, and teaspoons. We have some of these china plates up here you can take a look at per dozen. So that's 5 dozen china plates to get to your 50. And then we also have some glassware down here on this side. So kind of taking a look at how much that investment would be. Now there's a few more things on this table that are not costed in there, but Fred from Cisco mentioned that this is about a $4,000 investment, but not everything on this list is up there. So we're looking at a little bit around $3,000 for this particular scenario. Right. All right, so the casual party, or the economic party, we have a chafing dish on this side. I don't have the round one. We have some pitchers, platters, spoons, plastic tumblers. Beverage dispensers are not on there. But there's several other items you can come and take a look at. And that's the economy. That's the kind of a break into kind of a lower end. We call it casual party. All right, so return on investment. So just very simple kind of a scenario when you're looking at, how many parties is it going to take for me to get my money back, right? To start making profit. And on the elegant investment, about $3,000, it's going to take about 8 parties of 50. About 8, right? And on the casual investment, around 700, take about 3 parties to see a return on that. According to these numbers, everyone's numbers will be a little bit different, right? So the question is, can you do one a month, right? That's the question. Can we do one a month? And maybe some of you are already doing much, much more, in the thousands per month off-site, right? But for some of you, maybe you're thinking, is it really viable? Maybe I can do parties of 25 to start out with. Maybe, I've been asked a lot, and I can do a couple of hundreds that I know of right now, right? So the key here now is, not just thinking about how to do this, but launching it correctly, launching it well, so that it kind of feeds off each other, word of mouth. In the hospitality industry and food and beverage, we know that when somebody has a great time, how many people do you think they're going to tell? They have a really good time, a really good experience. How many people do you think they're going to tell and talk about to? It's around 3 or 4 times if it's a great time, right? If it's a bad time, how many people do you think they're going to tell? As many people as they can, right? 10 to 12 times. And now with social media, I'm sure that you maybe seen a little bit about that provided here this time. So with social media, that's wide open. That'll just go on and on and on and live forever on the internet. So it's important, when we're looking at this kind of investment and maybe starting this kind of business, Even if we have this kind of business and maybe things are not going the way we want to, maybe we're not making profits, maybe we don't have enough parties on the books, there's a way to go about doing all of this, and that I will return to the wheel that I showed you, right? So in the meantime, another thing is those of you who have a bar in place, need to sell the bar, right? That's really, really good beverage costs on the bar. This is where we make the money. Right? This is where we make the money. I have some of the standard costs, liquor, draft, bottle, and wine. These are standard good costs for the industry. And then I have the soft drinks down below. Those are really the workhorses. So you saw when I put those drinks on the menus that I showed you, that's iced tea, right? Iced tea is pennies. The cup costs more than the iced tea does, right? That's what we want to sell. And the one thing is I know you can buy iced tea, but you make a lot more money if you boil up some water and throw some tea bags in there. A lot more money, right? So iced tea is really a workhorse. Right here, think of food as an amenity to the bar. Most of my 20 years of experience is in large hotels and resorts, running the food and beverage operations in these large hotels and resorts. And, I was very proud of my restaurant. We were very profitable. However, we were always told that we, the restaurant, are an amenity to the hotel. Right? They make all the money in the rooms. They make a big portion of the money in the rooms, not so much in the food and beverage. Right? We were considered the little soaps and the little shampoos of the hotel. That's what we were considered, right? So I always think of that, and especially, when I'm teaching my students, this is an idea we have to get into our head. Maybe that when I showed you, profits, and I show you food costs, and you're thinking, wow, Cynthia, that's a big food cost. I don't know if I want to get invested in that. I don't know if I can, I know I can do better than that. Well, if you see your food as an amenity, then you're going to start pushing these drinks, right? Pushing the drinks, selling the drinks, I should say. I mean, when you go to a bar and you see, peanuts with salt on them, why are they there? They're free. Why are they there? Make you drink, right? And now we see hot sauce and sriracha and all this other stuff. It's free. I'll pay money to send that out free all day long because I know you're going to be drinking if I do that. Right? One thing that used to happen when I was working in restaurants was if all these people, right, were sitting around, right, they're sitting around in the bar or whatnot, and they're not really ordering, they're just lounging, right, in my happy hour, I'd go roast a bulb of garlic, or I'd grill a steak, and I'd send one of my servers to walk around with a fresh steak and a roasted garlic, get people ordering food with salt and with heat in it, so they order the drinks. The food is the machine for the drinks, right? So that's just a consideration when you're thinking about that it's not really a full picture if you're just looking at a menu. It's also the drink component, managing it and running it properly. All right. So there's some assumptions that I made. When I put this together. And this is the equipment that may already be in-house or is part of furniture, fixtures, equipment, or part of capital investment, right? So this is outside of the scenario that I presented. So I'm making an assumption that you maybe already owned or can rent, whatnot. It's the 6-foot tables. These are 6-foot tables right here. Rounds. Some of you maybe already have large investment in the furniture with rounds. Cafe style. This is the cafe style tables over here. These are really nice if you just want to do kind of mixers. You have chairs. You have an operating kitchen, right? That's a very necessary assumption for this scenario. You have an operating kitchen. You have a flat top. That's also called a pancake griddle or a griddle. I use flat top. You have fryers. Fryer food is really, really good for that economy scale, and also last-minute banquet parties that might come up. You have stoves, refrigeration. You have some cutting boards, knives, and alternatively, you might already have a pizza oven, a salamander. So if you already have some or all of these things in place, then you've got halfway there, right? You're already well invested. Also want to take a look at sanitation compliance. All right, and this is also an assumption that we're making, because part of rolling this out, part of making this reality here, is that the sanitation has to be set. The program has to be set already. So where I come from, they call them food handlers cards. Maybe other places in the country call them different things. They're the card that's required by the state or the local authorities that the food servers and the cooks have to take a test. Nowadays, it's online. I make my students at the university, I just taught 100 and some students, and I made all of them take the food handlers test, and they took it all online, and it was like $14 or something like that. So they have that card. They know the danger zone, right? They know how long the food needs to be inside the danger zone and outside the danger zone. So that's really important. Also in sanitation, there's thermometer and refrigeration checks. If you decide to do this kind of a program, or maybe you're already doing it, do you have a clipboard for every month? Do you have a clipboard with the days of the week and the different times, and someone coming by and writing down what the temperature gauge reads on the refrigerator? Because if the temperature is 45 degrees for 3 days and no one's looked at it, right, there's a problem. That's a big problem, right? And so a good way to monitor your refrigeration is to be checking that on a daily basis. I used to check mine when I was working in the industry. Check them right in the morning and check them in the evening. Make sure they're at temp. Do you have 3 compartment sinks? This is for wash, rinse, and sanitation solution. If not, you can have a dishwasher. Perhaps some of you already have that, a dishwasher in place that takes care of that 3 compartment sink problem. Sanitizing solution. Some states are more rigorous about this than others, having that independent solution at the workstation while they're working to wash off cutting boards, clean knives constantly. Because one thing we worry about is cross-contamination. That's when someone cuts raw chicken on a board and then an order for a Caesar salad comes in and they make Caesar salad right on top of that, right? That's a big no-no. So we got to make sure that we have sanitation solution. If you have grease traps, ventilation, Ansel is the fire retardant that comes down automatically. That's an important thing to have if you're thinking about doing, really promoting this banquets and catering operation. And then also we may have different kinds of local food safety codes, and one of those is sneeze guards. Some places require that and some don't. I didn't bring any today, but that's something to consider. That's an extra expense, obviously, to have sneeze guards, and that's something really important. I would check on that at your local code first. And then also table refrigeration and heating. And by heating, I mean, simple investment in sternos, right, sterno, or electric if you want to go that route. By cooling, I have some really nice stuff here at cooling. This is a bowl that's got that freezy stuff in it, that blue freezy stuff, and when you put it in the freezer, this bowl will be cold for the whole time. So it's nice so you don't have to bring, ice to the table, and sometimes the bowl tips in or something like that. So there's a lot of considerations like that when looking at refrigeration. All right, so now we're going to go a little bit into the nuts and bolts about display, right? Display. And this is what I've been asked to talk about, this can help anybody, whether you have a banquet and catering operation or not going right now. This will help everyone. So display considerations. If you're going to go on the high end or if you're going to go on the economy scale, buy the best you can afford. Buy the best you can afford. Skimping on quality when you're serving 50, 100, 200 people, it will cost you a lot more money in the end. It'll cost a lot more money. You're either going to pay now or pay later with that. And I know all of you have employees. Think about your employees right now. How do they put stuff away when you're not watching? They throw it in there, right? And it gets scratched. And here you've made this investment. You care so much about your products, right? So it's got to be very heavy gauge, easy to clean, easy to store. And I'll show you some of that in a little bit. Display considerations, there's many, many color options now. There's so many colors available, not only in the tableware, but you can also see on the linens. One thing I personally recommend, if you're just going to break into this, go with all black. Right? Go with all black. Especially if you're going to use some of these poly tables. And they're not disposable. If someone spills red wine or some kind of gravy or something like that, you won't be able to see it after a wash. And this poly is really easy to just throw in a washing machine if you wanted to make that investment. So we have washable skirting or disposable skirting. This here is actually disposable skirting on this table. We have a really pretty checker top on here, and then the skirting, you just throw this away. Right? So that's really nice if you want to just kind of inch into this kind of business. Or if you want to, like your catering operation, off-site catering, it's a lot easier to bring this and throw it away in the hefty bags than it is to bring all of your nice skirting. It's less of an investment. Also, you can pass on this cost to your customer. Right? All right, so warranties. If you're thinking about this nicer equipment, make sure that you have a good warranty, that you're ordering from a very reputable company, and make sure that the supplier also has a good warranty, because this stuff can break, right? And if we spend a lot of money on it, we want to make sure that it's warranted. There's some insurance on it. Mixing vertical levels with presentation and height. This is where kind of the art part comes in, the interest part. The part where people think something looks expensive, right? And that's the value piece. That's the value piece. If we're going to charge somebody, or we're going to charge a group of 50, $25 a person for tri-tip, right? There better be a good look to it. Right? It better look professional, commercial, right? Sleek, really nice. So when they walk in the room, the lady or the man who's paying for the party thinks, oh, okay. There's like a relief. Even when you came here to Rosen Shingle Creek, there's kind of when you see things around, it has a look to it, a professional look to it. And so that's what this does. Even this over here, this will give a really nice look. And even if people are paying, a lot less, say $10, $15 per person, this will kind of give that feeling that a value, which incidentally is something they'll tell 10, 20 people about. Wow, it was kind of expensive, but it was very high quality. We had amazing service, and they put on a beautiful display. Right? So that's also part of it. There's lots of little pieces that fit in to kind of bring the whole platform. Right? Carving stations and holding food items. We have a carving station here today. This is actually the carving station from this hotel. It's a simple cutting board and a heat lamp. It's a heat lamp. And there is an investment on this. However, the use of a carving station, you can drive up price. And you can control how much meat somebody eats at your buffet. Right? So, if you think about putting a whole bunch of sliced tri-tip in here, I love tri-tip. I'm just going to walk over here and make myself a plate of tri-tip. I'm not going to have mashed potato or salad or any of that, right? So, but if you have on your buffet, if you have a carving station, you can control how much people eat, right? And then you maybe put your smiley face, gregarious, most wonderful employee, you put a little polo shirt on them and you get them yapping with everybody and slicing meat, and then you add value to your buffet. And that's so easy. And maybe that person is actually one of you who's going to go out there and slice, right? And sell your place, be the face of the place, or demonstrate to the employees. And I'll talk more about carving station in a little bit. Candles, flowers, and other non-food items. People who haven't done food and beverage professionally, who are thinking about it, have a certain idea of what looks nice on a table based on what they would do at home. Okay? There's a big difference between what we do at home and what we do professionally, commercially. There's a very big difference. And the use of these non-food items can be really problematic. For example, candles. In a professional kitchen, we would never put a scented candle anywhere near food because it competes with the food. Right? With flowers, those are also very problematic. Dry flowers, fresh flowers. Flowers that would be in front of a station versus behind and elevated, right? And other non-food items called props. Less is actually more in a lot of these situations, and people tend to really put a lot of junk on their tables, and it really clutters up the food, right? All right, so I wanted to show you, take you through some pictures and some ideas that I have to kind of illustrate what I've said here today. This is the ugly one. Right? So I don't want you to look at this and go, whoa, that's what she's thinking is quality. No, this is ugly stuff. All right? So I just want to tell you that right up front. All right? And I'm going to go through why it's kind of ugly. All right? And I got this off the internet. All right? I just typed into Google not attractive buffets or something like that, right? And this came up, and I was so excited. All right? So let's take a look about what's wrong with this. And there's some okay things about it, but let's take a look together about what's wrong with it. Now this one here has a skirt, so it's starting off really good. Looks professional. You think, oh, that looks all right. But you got to think about where you're going to put this table. It's like it's a plywood wall, right? That doesn't have the look that we're going for, right? We need to think of where we're going to place the tables in our center. The other problem with this is everything's flat. I don't know if you see that. Everything is flat, and there's so much of it. It's even hanging off the table, right? So this is, now you're starting to see some of these things that I'm seeing, I hope. It looks like, plentiful food, but this looks like an event that I would go to in like a basement of a building somewhere, right? This doesn't seem like a professional thing I'm going to pay $25 a person for. Right? This one looks a little bit better, right? Looks a little bit better. There's even some lobster and crab on here. But it's, you can see the legs of the table. That's to me, and maybe I've been doing this too long. When I see table legs, I don't think that's a good thing, right? So you see some table legs. You see this, again, you got to be really careful about the wall that you're up against. And these big flowers here. It's kind of looking little old-fashioned, not so modern. And when I was looking a lot online about what centers look like, what these really cool, hip bowling alleys look like, I mean, the retro vibe is so exciting. It's so hip. It's so cool. And when I saw this, I'm like, no, you can't have that in your center, right? So I wanted to put that up there. Here, this one right here is a corner. It's a corner situation, and that's very problematic because what happens is, and maybe you've experienced this at different places that you've eaten buffets at, you're standing in line and waiting. You're standing in line and waiting, right? And when you get to this juncture right here, and you got to make this turn, this is right here going to stop everybody. It's going to slow everybody down. Plus, putting food way back in the corner is also problematic, right, for people who can't get to that point. So L shapes are not good for buffets. This one, you might think, hey, look, they have nice equipment. I see some disposable plates. But again, you got these table legs. Right? And that's not, to me, that's not a real professional look. And for just a little bit more money, you could have a much nicer look. It's not going to cost that much more. This right here is a polyester table cover that, if you see, none of my legs are showing except for my personal legs. I apologize for that, right? But all these tables look impressive. They look professional. And we can see we can see right here, you don't see my boxes, you don't see my junk underneath there, right? I have this nice poly, it's black, easy to wash, Right? Over here we have skirted tables, which are similar to this first one over here. This is a sample of your disposable. And this doesn't even need those little plastic things. This has a strip that just glues right onto the table. Right? You can come by and take a look at that. This one here is really, really nice. And I think this is just so hip. It's so cool for your place. It's got that retro vibe. These are called skins. They're called skins, and they're the latest, greatest thing. This table here, if you can see, we didn't bring one, but this is a skin. And it's just this stretchy polyester fabric. It's black, and you just stretch it over the table, and it hugs the table, makes really nice lines. You can get them for anything. You can get them for these high boys over here. You can get them for big tables like that, rounds. And it gives a look, gives a real nice look. I don't have my guys here from Cisco, but I have all of these things when we're done, when I'm done talking. I have all of these things for you to come and look at, touch, and I have pricing on every single thing that I'm talking about here. Totally set up for all of you. I have catalogs from the manufacturers also if you want to take a look at that, so you can go home and like settle in and see what you want to do. Right? I have my business card over there, and I have 2 reps from Carlisle and Cisco here to answer any of those questions, right? And I know that there's an agreement with Cisco in place already, so you have that advantage. Yes, sir?
We have an ongoing internal debate about letting people take food home from their buffet. And
no. Yeah, you stay and you eat the buffet. You know, there's places like that, and they charge by the pound. Now, if you wanted to set up a scale, I don't know what kind of operation it would be, but there's some salad places, maybe some of you have been to, Fresh Tomato or something like this, Plantation. There's different models for this where people can take as much soup and salad, pile them into containers, and there's a scale, and you pay by the pound.
at the end of the night, when everything's done...
Oh, you mean for your employees? No. The customer.
The employees, that's another issue.
Yeah, you're right about that.
But for the customers, they feel like, well, I paid for all this, and that's not always the case because you're making more.
Right, you're right. You're on standby, reloading what's being taken away. And that is actually an issue that develops with experience over time, that we don't necessarily need a whole entire chafer of mashed potatoes or a roast or whatever. Maybe we'll just start bringing out half pans. You guys, there's full pans that go into the big chafers, and there's half pans. So one thing that I used to do is I would pull the whole chafer off the table. I would go to the next chafer and I'd put in 2 half pans, right, and start weaning them off. That's what I would do. Yeah, that's a good question. You may ask any questions that come into your mind because I might not hit them. Thank you for that. Thank you. All right, so more display considerations. And this is about heights, what I was talking about height before. And now you can, spend money on this. There's lots of really nice setups you can do. These also turn into bars. Maybe some of you already do this with bars with the skirting on the top. In banquets, you can put a bartender behind there and serve all your drinks back there. You can also buy this equipment that's already set up, the serviceware. And this looks expensive. It looks nice, right? And this will give you that height that you need. Now, to be honest, when I was working in the industry, I just put a milk crate on the table, right? I'd put a milk crate, I'd put a tablecloth, stick a box or a milk crate or a bus tub or a plate lid or whatever to get my different heights, and I'd throw a napkin over it or another tablecloth over it if I had it. And then boom, I've got heights without spending a lot of money. So this is something you can implement very easily that gives it interest so it's not all flat. But I'm going to make an argument for this right here in a little bit. All right, so here's our carving station. It's our carving station, which, you know, this is a very fancy one because this is Rosen Shingle Creek. This is beautiful. I think it's about 100 pounds. This is very heavy, silver. But also, you can buy just a lamp that connects to the cutting board and plug it in. And here's my argument for buying something that's tiered, that has the look to it, and that's for a sandwich station, right? A sandwich station, which is a really nice way for people to feel like they're getting a high-end product. So you could even buy a rib roast. You could buy a rib roast or pork tenderloin or something a little bit fancier, but you're not cutting it and throwing it in a chafer. You are serving it to someone, controlling that portioning, right? And people think, oh, I'm getting this really nice cut of meat, but you can call it, you know, a sandwich bar or a slider bar or a slider carving station. You know, you can upsell people to that, right? Would you like to add on a slider carving station? Right? And then you explain to them, you know, we supply the rolls, you cut them in half already for the people, you put a little horseradish sauce or some kind of cool chutney or something you make right in front, and then you put your most wonderful employee right there, and he or she just, you know, makes a sandwich, and the guests will take their sandwich, open it, and take the meat right on, like that. So that's a really nice way to control what you're worried about, which is people taking too much, right? So I also want to say that I put this picture here to show a couple things, and that is a two-sided line. Two-sided line. If you're going to do more than 25, 30 people, you have to think about opening both sides of the line when you're serving. You can't make 50 people make a big long line out the door because they're going to be really mad by the time they get here. And the other thing is you're probably going to have to change out these chafers by the time the 30th person's going to get here, so the other 20 people are going to be mad too. All right, so the best practice for this is to set up two lines going in parallel with the chafers turned around so people can get their stuff. You're going to set up, now here's the other secret, you're going to put your most economical, cheapest stuff at the beginning of the buffet. All right? We always put our potato salad, our rolls, our macaroni, our coleslaw, salad, because you think about your own self as you're going through a buffet, you start loading it on, you're really hungry, you start loading it on. You got this little tiny area right here, right? And then what you do is you put your most expensive items, your meats, your carving station. This should actually be over here on this end, but it wasn't because it was hitting the camera. Put your carving station at the very, very end. You put your shrimps, you put everything expensive at the very, very end. So by the time they get there, it's a smaller place for them to put it. And so now all you know this, because I know this, when I go to a buffet, I always go to the most expensive thing. And that's what I eat, right? But your customers don't know that, hopefully, right? So you start off with that. The other thing to think about is how big are the plates? You know, 10, 12-inch plate that's going to put a lot of food on that plate. Right, so smaller plate, but not too small because you don't want to give them two plates, right? Not too small. But you know, a good 9-inch plate is plenty. And another way to control for that, if you tell the customer, I'm going to put out 50 plates, I'm going to put out 55 plates, right? Because what happens if in the instance where they do put on too much food and you're going to go through twice as much as you expected, you're going to lose money on that party. Well, you make sure there's only 50, 55 plates, and each additional plate will cost this much, a percentage of this, right?
Last night we had a buffet.
Uh-oh, here?
Right? It was very wonderful. The shrimp was like the second thing. Did you guys see that? This is great thought. And in my mind, it's the catering side knowing that we're paying by the piece. Everyone's going to load up.
Right.
Depends on how you price it.
That's exactly right. You're exactly right.
Expensive goes up if it's on their nickel.
That's right, and the question or the comment was, which is a very good one, if you're paying by the plate, if you're going to charge by the plate, then you might want to consider that. That's a good argument for that. I think you'd have to test it a little bit, but you know, pretty much everywhere that I've worked, I've always stuck that stuff way on the end. Just out of habit now. But see, we have here the two lines, and you don't necessarily need someone in a white jacket and a chef hat. You know, you don't need to have that. Like I said, a polo shirt is equally as nice. Anyone could do that as long as they don't hurt themselves. And they're working clean. It's really important to work clean when you're in front of people, not when they're turning their heads to go and eat something. I mean, the employees got to be trained, right? And this happens. This happens to me all the time with my employees. So. And I'll talk about training. Here's some ideas on beverage kinds of displays. And this is, a little bit of investment to put these hot pots. But, I was thinking about, well, how could, why would you have this in your center? Well, maybe, you can get some of that corporate team building. Maybe they don't want to have a full-blown buffet or banquet or whatever. Maybe they just want to do a coffee kind of a team building, donuts or whatever. And here's a way to do it, to make it look nice. This here is the bad picture in all of this. There's a difference between how this one looks compared to these three, right? So, looking at a garbage can right next to a table is kind of a no-no. Junk underneath, showing table legs, wrinkled tablecloth, just stuff kind of scattered about, just so you could really see the look, the difference on the look of what looks expensive, what looks nicer. Right. And more display considerations, this being a totally disposable party, and that doesn't look that bad when I looked at that. I thought, if you threw underneath there one of these disposable tablecloths, the way that they have the food inside there, that looks really nice. That looks like a nice barbecue. Here's pre-made sandwiches. If you're concerned when you're booking the party, if you're concerned that, people are trying to get something for nothing, instead of setting up the sandwich station, you could do pre-made sandwiches and make 50 or make 55. Have some ready to go if you have to make more, and when they run out, you go and speak to the organizer of the party and say, you're about to be out of sandwiches, would you like me to make some more? Well, that's going to cost this much, right? Get that done ahead of time and then be ready to make a bunch more. This one I wanted to show you here because this is really nice. Instead of just having a bunch of pizzas on a pan flat in front of you, for just a tiny, tiny bit more money, you could put these underliners here. And that looks really great. It just gives it a little nicer look, especially if you wanted to charge a little bit more. Yes, they're all flat, but you still get that nice, look that it's got some height to it. And this type of paper underliners comes in so many different looks nowadays. Right here, this is all disposable liner paper, and maybe if you've had fish and chips lately, they serve these mock newspapers for fish and chips. Here's the checkerboard on this side. If you live, somewhere where they're really worried about environmental concerns, right? You could have this eco paper that's brown. You can put your logo on it. They'll print this for you. Certain companies will do that. That looks nice. I really like this retro feel, a hot dog, hamburger, some kind of a basket. I think it looks really nice, especially if you're going to put some nice paper in there. They make cones for this. There's lots of ways very easy ways, very inexpensive ways that you can organize this so it gives it a better look. All right, and then here's just a mishmash of a few things I wanted to show you. Here's a taco party with all you still have height, but you have this nice accoutrements in front. This one is super fancy. This one has what's called serpentine tables, which are those curved tables, those S tables. You can rent those out once you get going, or maybe you're currently working with this right now. You can rent these, and this gives it a really high-end look. There's a lot of drapery on here, a lot of height. You can see different levels. Maybe they rented, maybe they own those chafers. Here, this is a really nice thing to do if you just throw a couple of cloth napkins on the handles, right? It makes it look really nice. That's a simple one. This one, I know that there's a milk carton underneath those brownies. I know that, right? And over here, I know there's bus tubs underneath there. I know that's a box from the back, but they don't have to see all that. They don't have to know all that. You make it look nice. All right, now this last one, there's other ways to do pizza. You can do French bread pizza and charge $1 more a person, right? Little things to do. This one is a sushi party, right? I put these here, because I know they're kind of Martha Stewart-y, and I was worried that you would be insulted that I put something like that there. But if I was doing this, and I have done this in hotels, I made an agreement with a local bakery, is what I would do. And when I used to have IBM come over and have 20 people from IBM would come over, this was in California, or I'd have, some other tech company from Silicon Valley, they'd come over. I would ask the owner of this bakery a few days ahead of time when my customers had a dessert break, I would ask her to make stuff like this. Right? And it's just a little touch, and if you have an agreement and they can put that out pretty fast, you can have added value, and it's a really nice surprise. I mean, think of yourselves here at this place. If you were to go out there and see something like this, it's just a really nice surprise, and it leaves you with a good feeling that's going to help that value perception. Right. So, kind of a little bit of review here. Always got to be ready on time with the food. People don't like to wait. Food should be ready a half an hour before, unless they're the super fresh items. But you have to have holding boxes if you're concerned about that. Right? Do you need 1 or 2 lines? We spoke about this. Take a look at how many people you have. We spoke about placing those more expensive items last. Using carving stations as an alternative to loading a bunch of meat in a chafer. And also some popular menu choices, depending on your demographic. And the price of your menu and who you're working with. Always having as a backup, and I did this in the hotels and restaurants, I always had a bunch of deep fried stuff in the freezer, because if somebody came to me the night before and says, hey, can you do a party of 50? Yeah, I can do a potato skin party. Great, okay, $12 a person, potato skin party, let's go. Right, so you always have something in your back pocket. Pizzas in the freezer, whatnot. You can do this spur of the moment. And as you get going with your menus and your catering program, you're going to have a lot of that last minute stuff. And to the extent that you could do that successfully will really help grow your business. All right.
I'm sorry, you charge a premium for last minute?
Depends. If it's end of the month and I have inventory and it's a Saturday night and Sunday morning is a bake, it just depends on the time of the year, time of day. If it's somebody that I might get a lot of business from that I know could really do something for me in the future, I might not. But if I'm in a position that I'm up and running and I'm the hottest thing in town, yes, they will pay. Yeah, right.
Part of it is rescuing your clients.
Yeah. Let's go ahead, speak on that.
They know that you help them.
Yep.
So it comes back to you later on. They had a business client come in, or the president's coming in from out of town. They didn't remember, or he just, he or she is stopping in, and they need you.
Yeah.
I need one for 30 today.
Yep.
You got to make those happen.
And you could do it. Exactly, and you got to be careful about that, because then they might come all the time last minute and they get sloppy, right?
Make that comment of today we can do that.
Right, today we can do it for you. Exactly. Thank you very much for that. All right, so we looked at these 2 darker circles here. Now I want to talk a little bit about these 3 items. To kind of complete this whole picture, I have a marketing piece in here, testing and rollout, and looking at some consumer feedback. All right, so marketing, where are we going to find the people? Where are we going to find the people? And maybe, there's people here who are, really have a good plan for this, but maybe there's some things in here you haven't thought of. right? So you can go to your local Chamber of Commerce. I'm sure many people in this room are members of the Chamber of Commerce and volunteer to host the mixers. Chamber of Commerce has a mixer every month. Twice a month sometime, you can volunteer to have the mixer at your center, and that way you bring in a bunch of people, right? And then you can post your menus and what you have to offer at that point. Other local organizations, maybe you have a tourism board, a heritage board, maybe there's a variety of local organizations that you can be a part of and join and welcome them in. You can, if you're in a larger city, in a larger area, you can go to the corporate event planners. And once you get in with one of those, all you need is one of those. And if you could do the party right for he or she, you do it right for them one time, they will become a very good friend and they will call upon you for a lot of business. So corporate event planners, and you can tell them, look, I can only do 50, I can only do 100. And you keep calling them, emailing them from time to time, and they'll start bringing things your way. I'm sure some of you already sponsorship for local kids teams. This is how you get the moms and the dads involved and looking when they want to look for places to have their parties. And of course, you have your own customers. You have your own customers, and you're well aware of that and different ways you can market to them. All right, so business not going to fall on your lap, not going to fall in your lap, right? I experience this quite a bit when I go out to eat, when I'm walking by a place that looks interesting. And we just recently moved to Orlando last year, and so I still don't know everywhere that I can have a party, right? So I just recently, went to a few places, and I'm there, I'm ready. I've paid $600 for a kid's birthday party before. Okay. I'm there, I'm ready. I say, hello, do you guys do parties here? What do you do here? And they say, I got this piece of paper. And I got to take this piece of paper. Here's a number you can call if you want a party here. I'm ready to pay in the future for a party at the place, right? And the person in front of me, misses out on that opportunity. They miss out on that. Right? And I'll get to this in a moment, but every employee is a salesperson for this endeavor. Every employee. Right? Going a little bit further, why not consider updating a current website, making it more contemporary? If you don't have a website, begin investing in that social media, Twitter, Facebook, etc. Then there's this old-fashioned neighborhood canvassing, and it's kind of gone away. But if you're in a place where there's a lot of businesses nearby, make a few trays of sandwiches or some snacks and put all your menus under there. Don't go talk to the head boss or the owner of the company. Go and find the administrative assistant who actually runs the company, right? The administrative assistant. Go to that person and say, next time you need to plan a party, would you consider us? Right? Would you consider us? So, old-fashioned canvassing. All right, another word on marketing. Another word on marketing, and I spoke with some of you about this already. Know those holidays, know the busy times, be ready 45 days, 60 days ahead of time with those menus ready to go. A simple 2 or 3 pages for Halloween parties, Thanksgiving, Christmas, a Valentine's, whatever. Have a bundle, have something ready. To be able to hand out, to be able to hand to your current customers, right? To be able to go around and canvas. Have something ready. This is what we're doing for Christmas if you want to have a end of the year party. I know I've been involved with several people planning parties that don't have hardly any money to do the big shebang at the end of the year. But yeah, maybe they'll consider, some team building and a little buffet, a little lunch buffet to thank their employees. Have something ready to give them. And then you can bundle these bowling and dining packages. You can tack on all the games, all the things that you have to offer in your place, and it's value added, right? So they'll get to see what you have to offer at your center, and they'll get to experience your food and beverage program at the same time. All right? Completing the rollout. Right, completing the rollout, really have to get employees in on this very, very early, right? And weed out the ones that are not going to be in on this, okay? Because this is a group endeavor, right? Make sure that system can run without you. It's really a system. The training piece, making sure that they have a script that they can read. You know, the phone rings. Hello? Oh, yes, we can do parties. Let's see, page 4. Yes, we have 3 different packages. What were you interested in? Oh, yeah, well, we have, you know, they can read off a script that's right there by the phone. If they say, oh, well, someone will call you back, you lost them. You lost them, right? So you've got to be ready to go. Every person who answered that phone has to be able to sell that party and book it. And even if the person says, I'm sorry, I don't think I'm interested, well, can I get your name? Can I get your contact information? Can I get your email? Just get that information and then hit them up every month with your brand new website. Thinking of a party in the future? Why not consider us? Right? They'll eventually come if they see you enough time. Right? Testing in the rollout, try it on people you trust first, because you're going to mess it up a little bit at first, and that's okay, so try it out on friends. And then finally get some customer feedback and follow-up. After you do the party, after they pay, after all of that happens and they walk away, they paid the bill, the very next day an email or a phone call has to go out to say, how was your time? You know, what could you have done better? Did you enjoy yourself? You really follow up on that, because now they're your customer. You're latched in. You got to take them along and hopefully bring them back several more times, right? So it's part of the relationship with the customer. It's not all over when they pay the bill, right? So check up early and often with them. Send them emails. Send them mail. 10% off the next visit if you come back within 90 days, right? You know, these are little things you can do to keep the relationship with them. All right, and then the training piece. This is very important, right? It's never ending. It's never ending. You can send people in that are your good friends. You can send them in blind and tell them, come shop my place. You know, I'm going to leave for a few days or a few hours. Come over here and try to book a party at my place. And make them tell you everything that happened. You can pay for professional services to do this. If you're a corporate entity and you can hire third parties to do this. It's called shoppers, secret shoppers. And they'll come and they'll shop your place and they'll give you a full report on everything they experience. Right? All right. Finally, all employees are salespeople. We need to give them the tools to capture the sale. Give them all the tools, and I mentioned that. Give them the tools. Make sure you have sample menus. Make sure there's takeaway information, not just business cards. Make sure there's scripted procedures. You can practice this. When I worked in restaurants, right before all the customers would come in, we'd all sit down at a table, and we'd be really awful customers, and we'd give the servers a hard time to practice on them. Right? So you could do this with them, you know, right before you open. You could practice with people on the phone and give them all kinds of scenarios that are real scenarios that'll help train them to make that sale. Make sure you have forms for easy data entry. Can you have an Excel form? Can you have some kind of a spreadsheet that has number 1, name, number 1, what time, you know, date, place, all of that. How many people in your party? No, at the very bottom, well, we will need to hold this reservation with the credit card. May I please take that number now? Right? So different things you need to have on your script. Some of the good employees, you can give them a little autonomy, right, to make that sale. Right? A little autonomy to make that sale. And of course, incentives. You can incentivize your people. Whoever can capture and book this many people by this date will have, I don't know, week off, or I don't know, whatever it is you want to give them. Right? You can incentivize them. If you have kind of a competitive staff, this is a really fun thing for them to do. Or you can incentivize them to upsell. You know, whoever can upsell this carving station off of a party will get us something or another, or a bonus or a percentage or whatever. Right? So at the end of this, if you're just breaking in and you want to start out kind of in a smaller way, in an economical way, or if you're going to go full out with this, I wish you luck, and I hope there was something you could take from this today, and I appreciate you listening. At the very end of this, you're more than welcome to come up. I have some people here who will be willing to talk to you more specifically. I have plenty of handouts on the costing if you're interested. And I really thank you very much for your time.